Networking. Why is networking important? Why is it the future?
Well, in the 90s, we're going to revolutionize human-to-human communication using these desktop computers in the same way that spreadsheets revolutionized financial modeling and that desktop publishing revolutionized publishing.
Great. 3 times as much power at the fringe than we have in the center, or 5 times as much power, depending on what statistics. How did the PC change the world?
Well, though the analogy is nowhere perfect, and certainly one needs to factor out the environmental concerns of the analogy as well. There is a lot to be said for comparing it to going from passenger trains to automobiles. And the advent of the automobile gave us a personal freedom of transportation. In the same way, the advent of the computer gave us the ability to start to use computers without having to convince other people that we needed to use computers. And the biggest effect of the personal computer revolution has been to allow millions and millions of people to experience computers themselves decades before they ever would have in the old paradigm, and to allow them to participate in the making of choices and controlling their own destiny using these tools. But it has created problems. And the largest problems are that now that we have all these very powerful tools, we're still islands, and we're still not really connecting these people using these powerful tools together. And that's really been the challenge of the last few years and the next several years, is how to connect these things back together so that we can rebuild a fabric of these things rather than just individual points of light, if you will, and get the benefit of both the passenger train and the automobile. So.
What's the vision behind the next machine?
Everything I've done with computers in my life has been along pretty much a single vector. And next is just one more point on that same vector. In this case, what we observed was that the computing power we could give to an individual was an order of magnitude more than the PCs were giving, in the sense that people want to do many things at once, and you really need true multitasking. We really did want to start to network these things together in very sophisticated networks, so the technology to build that in became available. And most important, we saw a way to build a software system that was about 10 times as powerful than any PC, and where new software could be created in a fourth of the time. So we spent 4 years with 50 to 100 of the best software people we could find building this new software system. And it's turned out beautifully.
What's the vision behind Next?
It's not so much different than everything I've ever done in my life with computers, starting with the Apple II and Macintosh and now Next, which is, if you believe that these are the most incredible tools we've ever built, which I do, then the more powerful tool we can give to people, the more they can do with it. And in this case, we found a way to do 2 or 3 things that were real breakthroughs. Number one was to put a much more powerful computer in front of people for about the same price as a PC. The second was to integrate that networking into the computer so we can begin to make this next revolution with interpersonal computing. And the PCs so far have not been able to do that very well. And the third thing, and maybe the most important, was to create a whole new software architecture from the ground up that lets us build these new types of applications and lets us build them in 25% of the time that it normally takes to do on a PC. So we spent 4 years with 50 to 100 of the best software people that I know, creating a whole new software platform from the ground up. And the way our industry works is that you create this platform software first, and then you go out and you get people to write new applications on top of it. Well, the height that these new applications can soar is enabled or limited by the platform software. And there's only been 3 systems that have ever been successful in the whole history of desktop computing. And that was the Apple II's platform software, of which there wasn't too much, the IBM PC, and Macintosh. So we're attempting to create the 4th platform software standard. And hopefully we'll succeed because it will allow these applications to be written which far, far exceed in capacity what can be done in today's machines.
What happens when you have a network that allows the relative minorities in a whole different area come together? How does that change the democracy?
I don't know.
Okay.
But what I have seen is I've seen interpersonal computing happening at our own company. Or maybe the best way to put it is, I remember when the first spreadsheet came out, I saw it fly through Apple as well as other companies. And when we invented desktop publishing, of course, it influenced Apple first. And I've seen the same thing happen with interpersonal computing here at Next. We decided to put a Next machine on every employee's desktop about 18 months ago and connect them with the very high-speed networking that's built in. And I've seen the revolution here with my own eyes. And it's actually larger than the first two. Let me give you some examples. If we want to, if we're going to be doing a special project, let's say with a company, and let's say the company's called what's your
WGBH.
WGBH. We're going to be doing a special project with WGBH, and what we'll do is we'll create a special mailbox, WGBH, and we'll put 20 people on it that are going to be helping on this project. Now these 20 people will be from all over our company, from marketing, from sales, from engineering, some from manufacturing, maybe some from our Boston office so they can be close by. And if one sends a message to this mailbox, they'll all get it like that, instantly. And if one sends a reply, they'll copy the whole mailbox on it so the rest of the team members get to read the intellectual content going back and forth. And everyone on in this mailbox will probably get around 30 mail messages a day. And they'll spend about 20 minutes, 30 minutes reading these and answering these per day. And it'll be like a beehive. Now, this project's very important for our company, and I want to make sure it's getting off right. So I'll put my own name on this mailbox, and I'll see these 30 mail messages fly by, all of the disagreements and the arguments and the thoughts and the decisions. And I can just let it fly by and read it. I can do some background coaching with a few people if I think they're a little off track. I can get right on the network and kibitz if I'd like. And after a month or so, when I know that it's going well, I can take my name off. And so not only is this a way to organize, violating all management and geographic boundaries, it's also a way to manage, where one can see, again, the thoughts and disagreements and decisions of a company fly by a manager in a way that they never could before. And we have seen it reduce the number of meetings we have at least by 50%. We've seen it get far more managers and individual contributors involved in decisions than they ever were before, and we think the quality of the decisions is a lot higher. And we've seen a window for management to look into the process of this organism we call our company in a way that has never before been possible. I'm part of this electronically connected community. That's going to provide us wonderful new capabilities and communications abilities, but we still always want to be able to disconnect that network spigot, take it off, and take our standalone computer somewhere, let's say home. Now what's going to happen rapidly is with radio links and with fiber optics to the home, you're going to be able to hook your computer up to your network at home. But there's always going to be that cabin in the middle of nowhere that I want to go for a 2-week vacation where I want my computer. And if it doesn't work in a completely standalone way, I'm going to be not happy. So we have to provide a fluid way for these things to kind of dock into the mother load network, but also undock and allow me as an individual to carry my computer up into Yosemite backpacking and where there's no radio links and no fiber into the network, and find out what happened when I left and share some of my thoughts maybe with some other folks. So we're working on that. That's our goal for the next 5 years, is that seamless transition between the standalone computer and the computer as part of this network community.
It also keeps away the Orwellian aspects of always being hooked into the network.
Right. That's right. Now, I actually think what an interesting paradox is, it is the network which is ultimately going to define and create the home computer market, not keeping our recipes on these things or something like we thought in 1975. Being a part of that network and not being able to stay away from it while you're at home will drive people to get computers in every house, just like we have a telephone in every house.
But computers then won't be just computers. They'll be radios and stereos and TVs.
No, I think they'll be just computers. Just like your phone isn't your television set. Just like your toaster isn't your radio. I think there'll be computers, and they'll have many of the capabilities of these other devices. Multimedia, the ability to integrate sound and video in with the computer, is absolutely coming. But a lot of people have mistaken it as the end rather than the means. We see multimedia as more of a means. In other words, people aren't going to buy a computer for multimedia. They're going to buy it for training, or they're going to buy it for interpersonal communication. And in that communication, in addition to text, they're going to want voice. They're going to want, potentially, I might want to send you a video clip. But the real market is to help us communicate better, or to help us train somebody. And we need to not lose sight of that.
I want to get your thoughts on the user interface stuff, and I'd like to look at the transition of Xerox to Apple.
Okay.
When did you hear, what was the image of Xerox PARC, and what was it like when you first went in there?
Well, Xerox PARC was a research lab set up by Xerox when they were making a lot of profits in the copier days. And they were doing some computer science research, which was basically an extension of some stuff started by a guy named Doug Engelbart when he was at SRI. Doug had invented the mouse and invented the bitmap display, and some Xerox folks that Xerox, I believe, hired away from Doug or split off from Doug somehow and got to Xerox, were continuing along in this vein. And I first went over there in 1979, and I saw what they were doing with the larger screens, proportionally spaced text, and the mouse. And it was just instantly obvious to anyone that this was the way things should be. And so I remember coming back to Apple thinking, our future has just changed. This is where we have to go. The problem was that Xerox had never made a commercial computer. This group of people at Xerox was more concerned with looking out 15 years than they were looking out 15 months and trying to make a product that somebody could use. So there were a lot of issues that they hadn't solved, like menus and other things like that. And at Apple, what we had to do was to do two things. One was complete the research, which really was only about 50% complete. And the second was to find a way to implement it at a low enough cost where people would buy it. And that was really our challenge.
What did you succeed in doing with the Mac?
Well, the Macintosh, as you remember when it came out, we called it the computer for the rest of us. And what that meant was that while experts could use some of the computers that were already out, most people didn't want, again, the computer was not an end in itself. It was a means to an end. And so most people didn't want to learn how to use the computer. They just wanted to use it. And the Macintosh was supposed to be the computer for people that just wanted to use a computer without having to learn how to use one. Spent 6 months. Now, it turned out that the paradox was that to make a computer easier to use, you needed a more powerful computer in the first place, because you were going to burn a lot of the cycles on making it easy to use. And so this computer that was easy to use was actually more powerful and could do more things than the less easy to use computer. And it took people a few years to figure that out about the Macintosh, but I think people did.
How has that changed the look of computers?
Well, I think the Macintosh was created by a group of people who felt that there wasn't a strict division between sort of science and art. Or in other words, that mathematics is really a liberal art if you look at it from a slightly different point of view. And why can't we interject typography into computers? Why can't we have computers talking to us in English language? And looking back 5 years later, this seems like a trivial observation, but at the time it was cataclysmic in its consequences, and the battles that were fought to push this point of view out the door were very large.